when we are passionate and we're so focused towards a path, you can't forget that in the peripherals of our vision, we sometimes miss really good opportunities when we become so focused.
You have the beginning, middle and end of a book. We have no control over the beginning. We have no control over the end. We have that massive chunk in the middle, and that's where the climax happens. That's where all the really exciting stuff happens.
Hey Will, how you doing?
Hello, Ellie. I am very, very well. How are you?
I'm pretty snazzy. I thought it would be really great to chat with you because you're just doing crazy things right now, crazy awesome things for young people. And but obviously my audience have probably got absolutely zero clue who you are. So it would be great to start with you kind of introducing just yourself in a nutshell and why you do what you do.
Yeah, 100%. So my name is Will Smith. I am a youth leadership expert, speaker and coach. I live in Tasmania in Australia. I'm the CEO and founder of JCP Youth. And I've just taken over the role as the president of Beast Incorporated, which is a not-for-profit running programs for at-risk and vulnerable young people in Tasmania. I also am a police officer in Tasmania as well, and I do that in the little spare time that I have. And outside of all of those roles, I live up here in the north and try and contribute as much to my community as possible. And through that type of work, have been named the 2020 Tasmanian Young Australian of the Year, which I've been really fortunate of, and get to do and be a part of some really, really amazing things.
That's pretty fantastic. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's been of the year of anything. So that's massive congrats.
Well, once the year finishes, then my title goes, and I'm an absolute nobody. So I'm just going to slide it in as many times as possible.
We'll say it like 60 times during this interview. No, that's very
yeah, I like that.
That's very cool. So what kind of led you to doing the work you do? Like what made you want to work with young people?
Yeah, so I'm a young person growing up year 7, 8 and 9. I was a footy lad. I mean, I love football. I'm obsessed with football. I love sports. So I went to school for pretty much all the wrong reasons. I was there to hang out with mates, be social, play, watch, and do anything that related to football. And at the end of year 9, I just made a bit of an executive decision that things needed to change. So I started to implement small things in my life in year 10. Nothing too big, but I was stepping out of my comfort zone just a little bit. By year 11, things started to change even a bit more. And then by year 12, I embraced the term leadership. And leadership for me was, all about making positive actions within my individual communities, my home life, and also the wider community in Tasmania and broader Australia. So I started to contribute some of my voluntary work to young people and working with vulnerable and at-risk young people as sort of a side note, breaking through that barrier of my mates thinking that it was lame and giving up your time to volunteer. So I ended up being college captain of a large school here in Tasmania in the north when I was in year 12, and probably was the biggest accomplishment as a young person, sort of coming and working my way up into that role, being someone that probably wasn't all that successful in school and didn't really, achieve well academically. I still found time to be able to give back, number one, but also show leadership in plenty of other ways. So then post-school, I continued my youth work and then continued developing my knowledge and continued developing the implementation of what I consider to be leadership within the community. And then that's just grown. So that's grown right through to continuing the youth work, to creating my own organisations and being able to grow that impact not only here in Australia, but in other parts of the world as well. So it all stemmed, I would say, from years 9, 10, 11 for me. Yeah, when things started to change. 100%. I mean, that was implementing small strategies for me that worked well for me. And now we actually teach those strategies to young people, thousands of young people every year. They're just real, they're raw. There's no special tricks to them. It's small things that you can implement on a daily basis.
With us, or are you going to keep those quiet for your?
Look. Well, I can share some of them with you. I mean, they're actually some things are just really simplistic. I remember in year 10, I remember sitting down and doing some research on just how to make a good first impression. So we teach in schools life skills that, leadership for me, as I said, is positive action. So creating a good first impression, walking into a room and knowing that you should always look to the furthest part of the room because it lifts your chin and puts your chest out a little bit. And that instills confidence in that room. People automatically turn to a door opening. And when they see you walk in with your chest out a little bit and your chin up, you know, small tricks and tips like that, that build one's self-belief, but also build really big motivational levels, which contribute to success and then building that leadership as well. Young people tend to have a belief that leadership is just that one person standing in front of a group of people leading and directing. Whereas that, for me, that's not leadership. Leadership is pure action alone. And so the strongest leader in a group can very much be the quietest person in the group, but they show their leadership through action. And so we teach young people how to really embrace that term leadership and then how to show that action as well. But our teachings are, through JCP, the teachings are very much about small things, you know, and it's nothing big. There's no hidden secrets really with it. I mean, they're things that we all know. It's just putting it into a basic term of going, you don't have to be someone extraordinary to do extraordinary things. You know, we're all ordinary people. Some of us just, you know, take that plunge. And it's just teaching young people how to break through the mindset of, you know, routine and break through that mindset of being able to fall in the trap of just thinking that every day needs to mold into the same thing over and over again, which is so dead and not true.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think it's what you just said there about people, like young people, thinking that, you know, it's the teacher that's the leader, it's the parent that's the leader. It's a thing that's been instilled for so long, and I think now the generations coming through are just kind of in that midst of learning that that's not the case. So it's great, and I think it's so important for people that are our age that are actually showing that we went through the period of believing that, and we're coming out the other side of it and seeing the other way and trying to kind of get on their level, because there's so many things that young people can do if they're given the space to do it. And
100%.
It's so cool that you do that with them.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. You know, it comes down to the fact that we spend so much time on technology as well. You know, sometimes that we see the lives of everyone else on technology, and we tend to fall and we tend to sink because we go, everyone else is living such amazing lives. I mean, you jump on my social media and have a look at me. My life looks like it's absolutely berserk and amazing. It looks really, really good. But that's just what I choose to share with the world. You know, no one sees the hours on hours of sitting at the computer trying to get it to turn on, and the frustrating moments and the sad moments and the moments where we need reflection in our life. No one sees that on social media. And so, you know, it's trying to build that self-belief of young people to show that everyone just puts their best versions of themselves online, and the best version of you is so much better than that. So, yeah.
I mean, because you've worked with all kinds of people, but like, what's the way you help motivate people that have got no sense of urgency to discover leadership? Like, what can you say to them? What would be advice or a task they can do to kind of uncover their own leadership potential?
Yeah. I mean, so we one of the things that we teach to young people, especially that come on our Beast program, is about hitting into that peak state of mind. So, I mean, every day, and Ellie, you probably felt it 20 times today, me probably 40. There's times where we feel, you know, not motivated. We just feel a bit lethargic, or we're procrastinating. You know, we might be driving and think we should put on a really informative podcast, but instead you listen to Pixie Chicks or whatever, you know, and whatever comes on. And so there's moments in our day where we really need to switch on. And there's moments in the day where we can really embrace opportunity and get maximum effort out of that one moment. Yeah. And to learn how to switch into a peak state of mind is what every young person needs. Knowing that, you know, I've got 10 minutes left of this math lesson. I need to really hit it. I need to switch on. I feel like I'm about to fall asleep. Those moments are when you can push yourself from being ordinary to extraordinary. And it's all about creating a trigger. So we teach young people that, one, you know, physiology means everything. We know that by rolling our shoulders back, breathing in, breathing out. I know, you know, this is taught even through Sam Cawthorn at the Speakers Institute, that, you know, reoxygenating our blood and being able to create a really good physiology amongst ourselves, that does leaps and bounds for being able to motivate yourself just in that 5 or 10 minutes when you need it. So for young people, one of the things that we teach is our beast moves, and something that for them they can walk and carry away. And it can be as simple as putting an elastic band around your wrist and just flicking it and knowing that that trigger or that one thing will motivate you in that moment. Every young person needs a trigger. Otherwise, we fall into the trap of just, again, being in the routine of same math class, same English class, same university lecture, whatever it is, we fall into that trap of just thinking that we can't achieve in that moment. You have to have a trigger that pushes you into a peak state of mind.
I love that so much. And I think, I was the same as you on the Speakers Institute Bootcamp weekend. Shout out to those guys. Woohoo!
Massive.
I found, when they ran us through that whole physiology thing, it's one of those things where you just think, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, surely not. Surely just doing that makes you just feel like an idiot, just cheering for yourself. Like, who does that? But then actually it makes a massive difference. I actually use it in my job now because I'm working in residential sales at the moment, and sometimes it's really hard. You get a lot of rejection, but then if I stand at the top of a driveway and I'm like, you got this, my mood changes instantly, like within a second.
100%.
And it is a thing you have to practice, but I think if every young person had that ability to practice that and just get used to feeling a bit like out there, it can take them a long way.
I think for young people, if you're over the age of 18 and this is something this is content that you want to engage with, that boot camp with the Speakers Institute, teaches similar things. It actually provides a bit of content for us. So we were delivering beast moves, and then I actually attended that boot camp and went, well, this actually backs up through a bit of research what we're teaching, instead of it just being this fly off the wall. Well, hopefully, this actually does work and not just for me. Sam and his teachings in the Speakers Institute gave some real foundations to that. So, definitely mad shout out to those guys, because I remember sitting there in boot camp going, this is us. This is what we're doing with young people. So, yeah, definitely.
Good stuff. So much juice. Okay, so this one is, you've kind of touched on a lot of the questions already, really, in your introduction. So the next one would be, how would you say, like in your own experience, and I know we're always learning, but how would you say, what are key indicators of knowing when you're on the right path for yourself? Like what do we need to look out for when we are on a pathway and we're trying to figure out whether it starts? Like, what are the indicators that, yes, it's a good idea to be where we're going?
Look, this is a really good question, and it's something that I'm in at the moment. JCP and the company that I'm on is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm very focused in the direction that I'm heading. I think a note to mention is that even though that when we are passionate and we're so focused towards a path, you can't forget that in the peripherals of our vision, we sometimes miss really good opportunities when we become so focused. So one piece of advice I would give people is don't lose those peripheral vision focuses that, we have opportunities fly by, and sometimes we go, no, I'm heading this direction, and we lose sight of some really good opportunities that we could embrace. And I've engaged in that, like I've missed opportunities based on a single focused vision that I'm heading in. But alternative to that as well is that by being focused and directed towards a certain path, in order to stay on that path and stay motivated, you need to find positive action with it. It doesn't matter if you're working in real estate and you're selling, 100 houses a week and you're solely focused on where you're going, there's still time to find positive action in that work. It doesn't matter if you're doing something that you think positively contributes or not. You must find an avenue where your body releases endorphins and you actually get a really good feeling about what you're doing, because eventually you'll become complacent and you'll turn into a really, really, negative framed mindset or a negative person, because your passion won't lead you somewhere that you'll be proud of, one, but two, that you can look back on and go, yeah, I spent my time well. Because at the end of the day, we chase money, but once you get to the end and you have all the money in the world, you don't have time to spend it. So, and if you do have time to spend it, you just find that you're seeking or longing something else. So on that path, find positive action, do something good for someone else, contribute to yourself, invest in yourself and your healthy mindset, the way that you eat, the way that you act. I just think don't don't lose sight of those peripheral opportunities coming by. And second, when you're on a pathway, just make sure that you're throwing in positive actions to guide your moral compass to the right direction as well.
I love that. That's so cool. I think like what you said as well about investing in yourself. I think, some people, obviously you yourself would come across people from less privileged backgrounds, and sometimes it's harder for some people to find resources and find ways to invest in themselves. Obviously there's the internet, and even for some people that might even be a tricky thing to get their hands on. But I think what a piece of advice I always try and share if people have limited resources is to kind of just talk to different people. You got to start somewhere. They'll introduce you to stuff. There's books, there's libraries. You can go and hang out in different areas, find different groups that are free meetups and things like that. Is there any kind of other ways you can kind of recommend people can get outside their own head and outside their own space to kind of develop themselves if they're not necessarily having access to everything?
Yeah, like for me personally, comfort zones is a big one. Just go and knock on someone's door. Like, we walk past Member of Parliament's, offices every day. We walk past, opportunities and people, and we go, I really want to meet that person. I'd fall back on the Jim Carrey Yes Man movie. Don't go to that extreme and that craziness. And if you're not willing to break through a comfort zone, you're not going to get a reward for what you do. I see every day in and day out, either students or people in their workplace putting in effort, but there's never a finish. There's no execution because their effort's at about 80%. And they can't give any more than 80% because they're not investing time in themselves. They're not going to work fully refreshed, and they haven't been eating well, they're not exercising. And so when they're coming to work, they're only putting in 80%, and you can't finish on 80%. You're better off spending 3 days putting in 100% than 6 days putting in 80. It's just, so when you have an opportunity to invest, you've got to jump on it. Like, don't walk past someone that, you can create a connection with and not engage with them. Have that, that 1, 2, 3 minute talk that will really create an engagement for you. You'll muck it up the first time. You'll be embarrassed the second time. You'll think you're the worst person in the world the third. And on the fourth, someone will tell you to go away. But it's on the fifth time something will happen. I fall back on that term, embrace opportunity. You only need one of them to work out, and then you've invested your time well. Because at the end of the day, you can jump into opportunities. If it doesn't work out, you're still the same person. You're back where you were when you didn't jump into the opportunity. I talk to students every day. When in year 10, I joined the environment committee. And it's a bit of a laugh because people that know me know that I don't join. Like, I wouldn't be the type of guy to join an environment committee. I lasted about 20 minutes in the meeting and then I left. But there's no issue with that, because for me personally, one, I love the environment, if anyone's watching and taking offense to that. But it was just not my jet. Like, I was the type of guy that probably joined the football committee, or, we didn't have a football committee, but, did similar things. And so sitting down in that environment wasn't quite for me. But I knew it wasn't quite for me because I went and sat there. But everyone else that thought that the committee was lame, which it wasn't, but thought that committee was lame, those people had no right to say that because they'd never experienced it. An example is I joined the St Vincent de Paul committee. St Vincent de Paul charitable group. I'm not sure if they're in New Zealand, but I went and joined the St Vincent de Paul group. They're a charitable group that help people out. And, it's viewed on as a bit of a lame group. And I walked in, I thought, well, I'm all about embracing opportunity now, or sat down, and I stayed on the committee for over a year because for me, I just engaged and thought, no, I actually really like this. And so that then became part of my values, and it instilled some traits in me that I never would have got if I didn't join the committee. Everyone else said, oh, that committee's lame. And I'm like, well, you can't say that because you've never experienced it. So unless you're willing to embrace opportunity, we're just coming up with excuses in our brains constantly.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's so easy, especially these days, for people to come up with reasons not to do things because there's so much pressure from outside, and social media kind of dominates the space of how young people want to present themselves, and TikTok and all that sort of stuff is just kind of everyone's ability to see their own individualism, I think. I mean, there's pros and cons with everything, but I think what you just said there about it might not suit other people, but they don't really have a right to judge it until they've like understood why you're doing it in the first place, you know?
100%. I love that.
Are there any like global causes or like international ideas or problems in the world that you feel outwardly connected to through the work you do, that you'd feel that you can fix in a way?
This is very biased. It's a biased opinion, but the current conflict in Syria is very, very close to my heart. And I know that there are a lot of big causes in the world. I know there's some things that everyone should be passionate about, but just purely for me, I spent time last year in the Middle East working with Syrian refugees in dangerous areas in the world, the Syrian people at the moment don't get enough airtime. Number one, they don't get enough humanitarian aid. They are treated poorly, and we as members of the world and humans of the world need to do more for those people. The country of Syria is under the horrible dictatorship of their president, and it's single-handedly caused the biggest refugee crisis in Europe. There are millions of people displaced because of the war. There are hundreds of thousands of people that have been killed who are innocent, women, children, and men, because of the conflicts in Syria. It has become an absolute hot zone for Islamic State and Islamic State recruitment. And we could have prevented this 7 years ago as a world community. And that's just a cause very close to my heart. I'm passionate about plenty of others, but I don't know, if I'm given a platform, I would use and say that, we as a world can do a lot better with what's happening in Syria at the moment.
Amazing. I totally see the passion in your voice there from that. And I think on that, with the work you're doing now, not necessarily for that cause in particular, although I imagine you probably have had that conversation with some young people, but how do you find that the work you're doing is empowering young people to go out and try and fix the world and fix these problems?
So every bit of content that we deliver is about creating positive action, creating change projects. I'll give you an example. We just graduated 10 young people off the Beast program. And these people are young people who are vulnerable and at risk. So we work primarily with young kids who are youth offenders, completely disengaged, not attending school, or something's happening within their life that we would consider them to be highly at risk. So these young people engaged in a 10-month program with us. Some of them engaged in everyday contact. Our content is about not just reforming that young person, but it's about creating them as a positive contributor to their community. So out of the 10 people that just graduated, the 10 young boys graduated off the program, 7 of them graduated as student leaders in their school. 3 of them became state ambassadors for schools, speaking on behalf of young people. 3 of them were nominated for the state volunteering awards. All of them had 0% offending rates, and all of them had over 80% attendance rates in school. So our message to young people is not about it. It's not about who you are, where you come from. It's not about what you've been through. It's about, you need to focus in on the individual self right now and what you can produce in the future. What you can possibly do to contribute to the community around you. Some of us aren't ready or capable to contribute to the community around us. What that means is we need to contribute to us as an individual. Yeah. So we need to invest in ourselves so we can create value in ourselves, and by creating value in ourselves, we can value other people. Some of us already have that value in ourselves, so we can value other people. But I would ask anyone watching this to ask yourself that question. Do I value other people enough? And if you don't, the answer is it's because you don't value yourself enough, and you need to invest a bit more in you. Because once you're healthy, happy, positive, you can step outside your zones and go and create value and give value to other people. Sometimes when we're so caught up in life, we use excuses of like, I'm busy at the moment, or I just don't care about other people, or, I'm not interested in doing that. I don't have time. We use those excuses as to why we don't give value to other people. But inevitably, it actually draws back to the fact that we don't value ourselves enough at that moment in time. So if that is you, if you're someone who works too much and you don't have enough time, then, really you need to look at how much value you're placing on yourself. Because inevitably, it's human nature to be able to provide and give to other people. That's what releases endorphins. That's what our bodies are designed to do. That's how we feel good and ultimately good, not relationship, love, good, not because, you know, we've done something that's exciting or thrilling. That's the core element of feeling good, is helping someone else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good to like just hear. It also comes down to circles as well. You know, who you surround yourself with. Like I've got a few people in my life, and I looked at my friendship group recently, and I thought the people that I feel most emotionally uplifted by, and the people that I feel most enriched with their friendship by, are all mums, all in their 40s, that are friends of mine. The three of them I can read off, and then another one that's overseas. And it's just like you find people that that recognize the good things in you, that you then feel even better at expressing, if that makes sense. Because sometimes it's hard for, like, if you have people your age around you, sometimes it can be threatening for them to see you be so confident, so you kind of repress it a bit. You find people that are older, or even just a few years older, that aren't necessarily threatened by what you're trying to achieve. I think that's often a good way of going about life. Do you agree with that? Like trying to find mentors from older people to guide you a bit?
100%. We're only as good as the people that we surround ourselves with. And constantly we ask young people to do that. You know, who's influencing you? We mirror image the people around us, and people mirror image off us. So, you know, you should always be asking yourself that, who are the top people that I spend time with? Because whoever those people are, you reflect their values, you reflect their actions. And it's important to always judge yourself based on that. And sometimes we need to make a change. And when you say that to people, people get offended, but we don't mean you need to start flicking people out of your life. Oh, I can't hang out with you anymore because you're a bad influence. Trust me, this guy sitting right here has more bad influences in his life than anyone else, 100%. And if any of my mates watch this, they'll be laughing and cacking themselves as they're doing something that'll be completely inappropriate. But it's not about flicking people. It's about who you spend the most time with. And so it's one of my best mates. I was the best man at his wedding recently. He's such an amazing guy. I love him to bits, and he is my best mate. But I don't spend a lot of time with him. You know, we have a relationship where we mutually know how much time we spend together. And then you know, we don't need to be together every day or every week or even every month. We know what our relationship is, and we know when it's good to spend time together. But he's not someone that I spend the most time with, despite being my best mate, because he's probably not the best influence on me, and I'm probably not the best influence on him either. And so you constantly should be upgrading and putting people into your life where you spend the most time with, that pushes you to be a better version of yourself. But that doesn't mean you flick people. Don't get offended. We don't flick people, especially people that mean something to us. You know, constantly parents say to us, you know, you should stop hanging around her, or you should stop hanging around him. You know, and you don't have to stop hanging around them, but you just need to understand that, you know, the influence of that person does rub off on us. And so don't flick them, just have a genuine conversation with them.
Totally love that. Honestly, the amounts of like conversations I have now that are so much more enriching, because I've been a lot more conscious and intentional with who I hang out with. And like, you know, from the age of like 17 to probably around 22, it's really hard to literally kind of figure out who those people are, because you're so tied in with social engagements and birthdays and 21sts and school leaving, and everything just feels like I have to go because everyone else is, and I don't want to be excluded. But I think if you're at least conscious of the way you feel when you are around those people, just take notes of those feelings. It's a lot easier to kind of get to the other side and think, okay, now I can move on, and I know what I need and what I don't need.
Yeah, 100%. I'm on board with that. That's exactly right.
Is there anything like you would tell your younger version of you now?
That's a great question. If I was to tell the younger version of me now something, it's probably more relating to values. You know, if I look back on my past and I look at things that I'd want to change or things that I've done that I regret, they're easy decisions to make, but I probably didn't have a value-based system there to be able to do that. You know, if you're making decisions in life and it's not based on values and you're just winging it, then, you know, you risk making poor decisions. So for me, I think I would tell myself to really spend some time creating that value value system. You know, what's important to you. And I could have prevented a lot of things from happening, which would have, you know, I'd be a different person where I am now. I'd be a lot more, you know, creating a lot more impact in the state. If, you know, I wasn't trying to overcome hurdles along the way that I've created because I made poor decisions. And poor decisions, sometimes people say, oh, you're young and, you know, you make decisions. And that's not what it's about. It's about sometimes there are decisions that actually are preventable and you can prevent making stupid decisions. And you can do that by having really good and solid values. So that would be my advice.
I love that. And what would you say your number one value is, if you could pick one?
So my top three are honesty, integrity, accountability. I don't know if honesty's first though. Honesty's one I strive for. I strive to be really honest. I just think if you're honest, doesn't matter whether you're in trouble, you've done something wrong, whatever it is, if you're honest about something, then, you know, people can help. You know, people can't help and people can't have trust and integrity with you if you're not honest. But integrity is a big one. I mean, I think of that word every day, and that sounds corny, but I actually do. Integrity for me is doing something when no one's watching. So it's when I hang up from this call and it's not just here, go like, boom, boom, what's good, it's Will Smith, and give you like this, you know, this talk. It's making sure that when you hang up, no one else is in this office. I'm still a happy, healthy, positive person that contributes and invests in myself and does the right thing. You know, just because no one's watching doesn't mean that I then just fall off and become a different person. So, you know, integrity is probably number one.
I love that. I think, you know, I'm very similar to you in that respect. And I think my number one would definitely be loyalty. And I think it has been ever since I was little, and my parents are the ones that pointed it out to me, because I was the one that would always invest all of myself into anyone that I kind of got attached to, and I would always stick to my word and I'd always deliver every 100% of everything. But it can also, I think with every value, but I think loyalty in particular can actually become a limiting belief if you get so driven by it can actually hurt you if the other person doesn't reciprocate, or, you know, so it's one of those borderline dangerous ones if you don't have it in balance. And it has bitten me before, but I've learned how to kind of use it better now and actually work around the ways it can restrict me. So yeah, I think those ones that you mentioned are great. And there's not, like, the honesty thing as well, it comes back to being honest with yourself, because just pretend like you said and just put on a face, but really at the end of the day you're the only one who's going to hurt if you're not telling the truth. So I love it. Is there anything else you want to kind of add to the conversation? Is there any like quick fire lines?
I don't have any questions. I don't have any comments, other than the fact that you are an amazing person, Ellie. I'm inspired by you and your work. And if people are watching and you do want to connect, feel free to hit us up. JCP Empowering Youth. On any socials. You know, every Monday we deliver this little corny Monday message and try and, you know, inspire people for the week. But I think if anyone's watching this, you should definitely engage more with Ellie, because you are amazing. I'm inspired by you. And if you want to engage more in some of our work and what we do, hit us up as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're even on TikTok, just... very, very hush. I think I've got like 3 followers on TikTok, but we don't use it. But we're on it. We're trying to branch out.
Good stuff. And for me, obviously, there's the bigsisterproject.com, and Instagram and Facebook is at the Big Sister Project _. Yeah, it's somewhere down here. I don't even know yet. But yeah, definitely will. Everything right back at you as well. I really encourage everyone to reach out to you just for even motivational content, because even for people that aren't teenagers or young people, I reckon there's so much interesting stuff that you just said that is definitely inspired me. Definitely given me some food for thought. Thanks for chiming in, Will. It was great to have you, and I can't wait to see if we eventually, when COVID's all over, we get to meet in person and do some cool things.
100%, Ellie. You're an absolute beast. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Have an excellent night.